Okay, today's date is March 28th, and I'm with Travis Mayer and myself and Samantha
Cobes.
Cobes at her residence.
Okay. We were told that Alex was potentially moving in here. Okay. And we kind of just want to talk to you about Alex and what you know of all the people that are involved in this situation. How long have you known Alex?
If I had to guess, I had to have met him sometime in like late 2013, early 2014. I worked at Racy's in the Nucleus, and he was a regular there. He was there for hours and hours every day.
Okay.
So I had started serving him, and then we'd gotten talking, and then he eventually took my job when I moved abroad for a Fulbright fellowship. So he was hired like as my replacement. And yeah, and then I came back, and obviously I was there all the time drinking coffee and chatting, and you kind of get to know people really well when they're regulars at the coffee shop.
What can you tell us about Alex?
Alex. So when I first met him, he was really, really shy. I guess he had to have been like just 20 or so. So he was studying at the university, and yeah, he was always around, but he didn't talk much. He was always just reading his philosophy books, and I think like eventually he became more comfortable talking to the workers there, and so instead of like sitting on the couches away from people, he would sit at the counter and chat. And it's been really cool, over the last few years to watch him turn into like the person that he became, because it's like he pulled a 180. He was just like this scrawny, nerdy kid, and then he just transformed into this like really beautiful, incredibly intelligent, like really. Not quite outgoing, but like very pleasant, like really great barista. He was comfortable talking to people all the time, and we've talked about that many times too, Alex and I. I'm like, who are you now? Like, it's so great to see you, socializing. I always kind of got the feeling that maybe in high school he was just more studious and quiet.
Just did his.
Because he was so smart that it was really kind of hard to communicate with him sometimes, because he made reference to like so many things that were beyond my scope of knowledge.
Okay.
Like philosophy, that's like he just spoke through philosophy.
Sounds like he loved philosophy.
Unbelievably gifted in philosophy.
What was some of his thoughts anyway on philosophy or life?
I'm probably not the best, because I feel like when we did have these conversations, it went over my head, and I was like, I don't get it.
Okay.
But I do have some friends that could probably remember and are actually
but nothing that
familiar
really
with.
just sticks out in your mind.
No. I think he was just insanely rational, like just the most rational, calm person, and I think everything, like he just had a reason for everything,
So how did he talked about you moving in here? Is that correct then? How did that come about then?
So there's a regular at the coffee shop named Doug, and it sounds so cruel, but I was telling Alex, so I needed a roommate because my current roommate was planning to move abroad when their lease ends.
Yeah.
And so I posted like on Facebook, and I was looking for people, but I hadn't really gotten anyone. I was being like really particular about roommates because I'm really clean and like quiet. And I reached out to Alex, and I was like, Alex, oh my gosh, I don't think I can find anyone to live with me. What if I have to live with Doug? And Doug is one of the regulars at the coffee shop, and it was just a joke. And like, we adore him too. But I'm like, well, Doug's looking for a roommate. Like, what if I have to live with Doug? And he was like, no, that's an awful idea. Don't do it. But then he was like, wait, but when do you need a roommate? It's like in June. He's like, oh, I also need a roommate in June, because he'd applied to graduate school for philosophy. And he wasn't sure. I think he kind of assumed that he wasn't going to get into either school, because he told me like they choose like 1 in 300 people or something for these programs. So he was kind of assuming he would still be around. So he needed a roommate, and I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect, because I knew that like he'd be a fabulous roommate, and I could trust him, and there was no hesitation.
So then at that point, did he decide, I don't know if I got this right, did he move in here in the last?
No, so he was still living, I forget the road, but with his roommate Matt and then another one. He came here, he met not the landlord, but like the property manager.
Okay.
He applied, paid his $30, and he was approved. And then we were supposed to set up a time sometime this week for him to pay his deposit. And then he would have been moving in.
Okay, so he never actually moved in or brought anything here?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So he's got nothing here at all? No. Okay.
No, he just stopped by and he would come and like chat. Obviously he came to look at the place and he was like, wow, this is great.
And he was supposed to move in June then?
June 1st, yeah. Yep.
So what do you know as far as his relationship with Ezra? Did you talk about that at all?
Yeah, so it probably started in like, well, I think I became aware maybe in like November of like they weren't
November 2017, right?
2017,
okay.
Yes. So I don't know if either of them ever like considered their relationship dating, but I knew that they were seeing each other, and at first he was kind of telling me that he was seeing someone and he was really excited because, and this is how he described the person, he said he's dating someone that that is a woman but identifies as male.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's great. Like, you're happy. And he wouldn't tell me who it was, and I didn't really care too much. Like, it's fine, it's cool.
Yeah.
But then I kind of put clues together because, you know, maybe like another time I'd hung out with him, he'd mentioned like this person, you know, I was like, why don't you invite them to the joint? He really liked drinking beer at the joint.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't you invite this person? And he was like, no, they're not old enough to drink. I'm like, okay. I just like put little clues together and I realized like, oh my God, it's totally Ezra, because I always saw her at the coffee shop. She was always at the counter talking to him. And it all made sense. And then he'd made a comment about how she was in a relationship with someone that was not, I guess, someone that was not very good to her. It was kind of a toxic relationship. Which I knew that Ezra was dating, and I'm sure you know Jason, and I knew that like there were, you know, it was kind of like common sort of gossip around the coffee shop that like they would fight and bicker and whatever. So put the clues together, and that's how I realized it was her. And then I asked Alex about it eventually, and like, just, you know, you don't have to keep hiding it. Like, I know who you're talking about. And he was like, yeah, it's her, but, you know, obviously, like, she doesn't want people to know that she identifies as male because she hadn't, like, really told anyone that.
Okay.
So that was, like, a thing, you know, that I wasn't going to say anything or tell people. And then I think it was also because Jason had no idea that this was going on. And she was, from my understanding, actively trying to get out of the relationship with Jason. And Alex was kind of that, like, confidant, sort of, you know, like, sort of helping her out, always there for her. I think, you know, emotionally she dealt with a lot of stress, it sounds like, and yeah, but Jason was unaware of that relationship, and yeah, that was going on through at least, I mean, to my knowledge, at least sometime in February, before Alex told me that they had like a falling out of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
That Ezra had a falling out with him?
Yeah, okay, what I was told there was let's see, I believe Ezra had already moved out of Jason's place, and she was living with her mom, maybe, in Stanley, or dad, some family members in Stanley, and she was looking for a place to live, and I know this because she also came here and looked at the apartment, and yeah, so she'd broken up with Jason or whatever, they broke up, she moved out, And then I think it was a couple weeks after she'd broken up with him that Jason must have, I'm assuming this, but I assume he just found out maybe through the grapevine that Alex and Ezra had something going on.
Okay.
And then Alex had told me that there was some kind of like argument in front of Racy's at some point.
Between,
It sounded like it was between Jason and Ezra, but Alex was there. But I don't know if, I don't think it was like any kind of fight or anything,
Right.
or like physical fight. And it didn't sound like it involved Alex. It sounded like it was just between the two of them. But I don't know. I didn't even ask for details. I didn't really care. But it sounded like he found out after they'd broken up that she'd been involved with Alex.
so just for a timetable, if they started dating Jason, you were, unless I missed, it's November
Yeah.
17. When did Alex started dating her?
Well, I have no idea when she started dating Jason. I think that was like quite a while ago.
But
Alex was at least involved with her. I mean, this was like October, November.
Okay.
It was probably like mid to late October.
Okay.
Because I do remember going into the coffee shop. It was right around the time I moved here, and I had gone in. She was there with him. She went and got drinks with me at the joint. She got kicked out of the joint. I didn't realize she wasn't 21.
Okay.
So someone there must have known, and then they told her that she had to leave, and I was like, why are you leaving? She's like, oh, I'm not 21. I'm like, okay, bye. It was super weird, but while we were sitting there, and again, this is either at the end of October, beginning of November, I believe, she was telling me about Jason and how she was trying to leave him. And at that same time, Alex had told me that they were involved. So I knew, but I hadn't ever talked to Ezra about her relationship with Alex because Alex told me not to talk to her about it. It was like a secret, and so I just respected that. I never brought it up. But yeah, that was definitely, beginning of November for sure.
Okay. As far as Alex and Ezra, do you know what their relationship was like? Did he talk about it? What he liked or disliked about it, or had any concerns, or?
I feel like the only things that we ever really talked about, they were all positive things.
Okay.
So I know that Alex was really happy, and I think that he didn't seem really concerned about the fact that she was still with Jason. I think he was more concerned that she needed to get out of that relationship, and he felt like he was there, to support her, or like as an escape for her. I feel like it was a positive thing for him. I know, they were definitely having sex, according to him, because I know he told me that it was like the first time in his life that and keeping in mind, this is a really innocent, nerdy person who now was having sex regularly, and he told me that, he's like, I don't know how people do it, I'm tired. I remember him saying that, and I remember laughing, that's funny, and so I know it was like that. I saw her so many times at Racy's talking to him, and she would be there for hours. She was there regularly spending time with him, and sometimes I'd go in and she wouldn't be there, but he was texting her. So it was a very consensual, mutual, long lasting, and what seemed like fairly intense relationship between the two of them.
Did he ever talk about specifically how they had sex by chance, or anything that he liked or disliked?
No, he definitely made some. He alluded to how freaky things were, and which I'm very comfortable talking about those things, but I never asked. But I do remember him saying "Oh my God, Sam! If anyone ever saw our phone conversations, they would be shocked." And I then asked him to show me, which he wouldn't. But like he wasn't saying that out of a place of like fear or anything.
Right.
It was just like, oh my God, these conversations. Like I'm texting her while I'm at work, and so it just all gave me the impression that like it was probably some weird kinky stuff. Also considering the fact that like she identified as male, and I can make assumptions, and Alex, when I first met him, I remember him telling me he identified as asexual, and so he'd like dated women, but he said that he was just asexual. He wasn't like attracted to anything. He didn't want to have any kind of sexual relationship with anything. So that was like when we first met him, he was like innocent. That's the way he identified, and then all of a sudden Ezra came along, and what I assume, I don't know. I always kind of thought like maybe he's bisexual or gay, and then this like cute woman comes along, but she identifies as male, so it's kind of like a gateway into like a homosexual experience, if that makes sense. I just interpret it as so. And most of the people, at like races in the coffee shop are like fairly open-minded, so like none of us were phased by it. It's just like I'm like, oh, that cool, awesome, like I bet you're having a lot of fun. But yeah, I never asked about like specific things that they did. He wouldn't tell me.
What did if he said, or if what did he say about Jason and Ezra's relationship?
Well, I got
Did you have an opinion on it, or did you, or what was actually going on there?
Yeah. So I talked to both of them at different times. So like when Ezra came to look at the apartment, we talked for like an hour, kind of about that. And I have a little bit of text message about that as well.
Okay.
But Alex, he was like the kind of person that would. He didn't really gossip. He didn't really say much. He was just kind of like, Ezra deserves better, and Jason isn't good for her. Like it's a stifling relationship. I guess I never really like saw them much together. Personally, I really don't know much about Jason, but I have concerns about him. Like he also is a regular, and he would. I don't know. He just like brags a lot. It's like he has this inflated idea of himself. My roommate that's at work now, she, how is this connection? Her boyfriend, his sister dated Jason for quite a while, for a really long time. Her name is Alon, and she might be someone that you should talk to about Jason, because they were, I don't know how long they dated, for quite a while, and he was pretty bad to her. I don't know that it was like physical abuse, but like a lot of emotional, psychological, like controlling, really nasty comments, and I think he really damaged her in a lot of ways. So I had kind of known some of that just through being friends with friends of people, and so that's always been my opinion of him. Was like he's kind of icky,
Is he on, or does she live around here?
Yep, I saw her last night. I don't know where she lives. She lives kind of with her boyfriend somewhere. But I believe that she is 100% willing to talk. She gave me her phone number to give to Alex's parents, because his parents had asked me to put a list together of names. And
so
she
do you
was.
have that phone number?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what her last name is?
Yeah, I have to look at it to pronounce it.
Okay.
Let's see. There's a lot of conversation in my phone right now, so this is okay. Alana, her name is spelled Elan.
Okay.
I'll get her last name in a second, but her phone number is. And it sounded like she would definitely be willing to talk, and I know she has a very, very negative view of Jason, and she was kind of expressing that last night as well, because some of us had gotten together and kind of talked about it. But I'll get you her last name. McCallum, McCallum.
Okay. So when you had that hour conversation with Ezra here about Jason. Was she specific on anything, or just general talk?
Yeah, so she was kind of saying, that she was living with her mom and she wanted to get out of there. She was working, it sounded like multiple jobs somewhere, and that she, was really stressed. And I know she had said that the relationship was toxic and it was both ways. So she seemed to be like honestly reflecting, like we don't treat each other well. She said that she was looking, she really liked the apartment because it seems to be a place that she could heal. She used the word heal after the relationship. And we talked about like the natural lighting and how we could have a bunch of plants and it would just be like a really nice, refreshing restart for her. In terms of her relationship with Jason, I didn't know her that well, and so I didn't want to talk. Yeah, I didn't want to ask too many questions, but she had mentioned, she said, it's hard to leave. We've gone through a lot together. And then she said, like there was the abortion. And I don't know what that even meant. I didn't ask. I don't know whose child it was. I don't know whose, like, was she forced to do it? How did he, I don't know. I have no idea. Didn't ask.
Okay.
But that was a thing that was mentioned. And what else had she said? Maybe if I can think back to, like, when we had beers at the joint before I knew she was underage. It sounded like Jason was just very controlling of her. So like when he wanted to know who she was with and where she was at all times, kind of thing. But again, I don't know. It was like, I guess maybe I wish I would have tried getting more information, but I didn't. I was kind of like, I get it. It's gonna be okay. I don't want to like listen to a drunk girl cry, so let's not talk about this too much. But I mean, in speaking to Alon, you might find out a little bit more about the way that he treats women. I've heard plenty of people say, I've never heard him say this myself, but I've heard plenty of people say that he likes to talk about like the vast amount of women that he's had sex with. Including like to Alon, I think he had made comments to her while they were dating about the women that he was having or that he had sex with. But that's, a lot of that is just coming from someone who heard it from Alon, and I think she can definitely share a lot more on
Did
that.
you ever have any knowledge or hear if Jason was bisexual or anything like that?
I don't think so. Oh gosh, but that does remind me of another thing that Ezra had told me. So in November, when we had gone to the joint, it was that same night. I remember talking to her and Alex about like how people use Tinder to like date people, and my thoughts on like how strange that is, or like hooking up with people. But she had told me, she's like, oh, I use Tinder all the time, and I find like couples. That's how I find couples to have sex with. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, you could do that? Yeah. So I remember her saying that, and I don't even know, like, it wasn't clear if she was, like, actively doing that, or if she'd just done that in the past.
Okay.
But she was, from my understanding, and, like, very kind of vocal about it, very sexually kind of deviant in that way. If we're judging, I don't know. I also try not to judge, and, like, whatever you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember her saying that. I really don't know anything about Jason. I don't think I've heard that. I've really honestly only heard that he's like just kind of sort of a misogynist, just kind of icky and really into himself. That he like, I know I've heard him bragging a lot about like the deployment or multiple deployments or whatever that he's been on, and like all the cool things, all the guns he gets to shoot, or whatever the hell, and I don't care. Yeah. But
so how did you hear, or what did you hear about the situation as far as Alex and Ezra?
Like what happened? So, well, what I heard, I got a phone call on Saturday from the Eau Claire Police Department asking if I knew where he was, and I had texted him on Thursday morning, like really early in the morning. I was in Las Vegas, and it was probably like 10 p.m. there, and it was like maybe midnight here, and he was texting me. But I was texting him about the rent or the lease, and so it was the last I talked to him. But it was just about that, nothing else.
Okay.
But yeah, I got the phone call Friday that he was missing, and then I flew home. I got in Saturday morning, and then I had notified his boss at Racy's and was like, hey, we're looking for him. Has he missed a shift yet? Because I was like kind of concerned, but I thought, I don't know, maybe his phone died and he's somewhere. It doesn't seem like him, but I wasn't like terribly concerned on Friday. But as soon as I heard that like he had missed a work shift Saturday, that was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty serious, because he would never, ever, 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 ever do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then basically all I heard, I talked to his parents. Well, and I had talked to his roommate Matt, and I'd been told mostly from Matt, and I think he heard this from the police, but I don't know, that Ezra was picked up on Thursday, or found or something on the side of the road. There are like lots of rumors circulating, so it's like, I don't know what's actually true, but she was found on the side of the road, bloody or covered in blood or bleeding, that she'd potentially cut the word boy into her arm, which to me made sense, because I'm like, well, I don't know if she identified as male and she had some kind of like psychological like snap, I don't know. That kind of made sense to me. But also then someone was like, oh, but boy is like a street name for heroin. And anyway, so I just heard that she was found like distraught, and then his body was found in the woods somewhere in her car, I assume, but I don't know if it's actually her car. I don't think that's been like confirmed by anyone.
Okay.
Just a car. And when I spoke to his dad said the words, he was stabbed, which is very different from stabbed to death or like stabbed himself. So I don't know.
You said you talked to his parents. How was that connection, or how did that happen?
So when I was contacted on Friday by the Eau Claire Police Department, they had said that his mom gave them my name. So I'm assuming he told his mom at some point, like, oh, I'm moving in with my friend Sam.
Okay.
So I think that's how they got my number. Okay. And then I got their home line number, or landline number, from one of my friends that was actively looking for Alex, and it was like, hey, we have their number in case you want to like call them, because we were in the dark about a lot of this for days. So we just had the parents' number, but we were like, do we contact them? Because we don't know anything, but we want to like tell them that we're here, but we also don't want to disturb the peace. So I called them on Sunday morning just to tell them that we had plans of hanging up like missing person signs and whatever. And so when I called and told them that, that's when they were like, oh yeah, you don't have to do that. They found his body yesterday. So we all found out on Sunday.
Okay.
You said about texting him when you were in Vegas. When was that again?
So that was technically, it was like just past midnight Wisconsin time that I was texting them.
So it'll be Friday morning?
No, it was Thursday morning.
Thursday morning.
Early Thursday.
Super early Thursday morning.
Okay.
And it was just about, I was like, hey, the landlords, like I'm going to ask them this week to sign the lease. Are you good on like paying your deposit? You'll have to have that ready. I think they are increasing the rent, like one of those. Yeah. And then he was like, okay, yeah, sounds good. And that was the extent of our conversation. And it was at probably at 12:30 or so.
Okay. Do you have any personal thoughts on this thing from kind of talking to both of them?
There was another conversation probably a week before before I went to Vegas. Alex had come over. It was to meet the landlord and give me his application. And we were hanging out, sitting in the living room, and we were talking. And I'd asked him, because I knew that after that fight happened at Racy's, that he had said that Ezra had told him, like, don't ever talk to me again, forget my name, leave me alone, like, we're done, we're not talking. So I'd asked him, do you have any contact with her? How are you doing? And he was like, oh no, like we haven't spoken, which I thought was pretty impressive because they were so involved. And when he said they hadn't spoken, I thought like, oh, it's probably got something to do with Jason. And he probably told her she's not allowed to talk to anyone, including Alex. And at the same time, that same day, he had told me that Ezra was like actively pressing charges against someone named John something for sexual assault. And I don't know this John guy. I don't know anything about it. But I asked Alex, I'm like, well, what do you think? Like, do you think this John guy actually assaulted her, or what? And he said he thought that Jason found out that Ezra cheated with this John guy, and that Ezra didn't want to admit that she cheated, and so instead she said, no, I was drunk, he assaulted me. And I asked Alex, like, but do you think that's what's going on? Do you think like that's what she's doing? And he was like, yeah, kind of. Like, I can't imagine John would have done that. So then I asked him, well, Alex, like, do you think she's going to accuse you of sexual assaults? And he was like, well, if she does, I'm not worried. I've got 6 months worth of text messages to prove that we were in a relationship. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I remember having that conversation because I immediately was like, oh my God, if Jason is, if she's trying to cover her tracks with like all of the cheating that was going on, it would make sense that she would just accuse everyone of sexual assault or rape or whatever. And that's why I was concerned. Like, but Alex, what if she does the same thing to you? Because, she could.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, like, I'm perfectly fine with that. I have all the messages. And that he had said, too, like, he's like, my roommates could defend me. Like, she would come over, we'd hang out, like, all day or all night, and then she'd stay the night, wake up in the morning, and, like, we'd shower together. You don't do that with someone that's sexually assaulting you, He's like, I'm not worried about that. That's not what happened. So, yeah, that was one of the last conversations I think I had with him, like, in person. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you aware of any of Jason's activities that day that Alex went missing on Thursday?
Well, I heard that he was that he'd potentially shown up at Alex's house. But this was in speaking to his roommate, Matt. But Matt wasn't there. Matt was working. I think he said the other roommate might have saw that or something. And then through like rumors or maybe not rumors, someone last night had said that, Ezra showed up at his house on Thursday and they had some kind of like argument. Jason rode up on a bike, which I find really weird because Alex lives in a place, I don't know, you don't like bike back behind his house. It's not like on the bike trail. It's not, I don't know. I thought that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
That Jason would show up there. How did he know that Ezra was there? Did Ezra tell him she was going there, and if so, why? Or was he just stalking the hell out of her and found her there? But like, it had to have been one of the two, I would think, because that's not a road unless, I don't know where Jason lives, to be honest, but I don't think that was on his way anywhere that he would have gone. So that was concerning and like definitely a red flag to me. I've like thought, about maybe the potential that Jason somehow manipulated Ezra in some weird way, because I can see her being like really, really, really weak and vulnerable. It would not surprise me whatsoever if that were the case, if he had convinced her. I know that I'm glad I remember this. When she was over here looking at the apartment, she told me that she was in town that day, and I could look up the day if I needed to, but she was living with her mom or whoever at this point, Stanley, but she was in Eau Claire that day because the night before, Jason told her, I'm going to commit suicide. So she showed up basically to console him and to stop him, and it sounds like this happened multiple times. So that's what she told me. She was like, yeah, he like, I'm trying to distance myself from him, but he keeps reaching out to me in these ways and I don't know what to do. So that's what she had told me, like he was threatening to commit suicide, so I went to his house last night and I stayed there. Which, like in my mind, I thought, okay, either it's true and he is that manipulative, or that's another lie that she made up because she's still seeing Jason and she doesn't want people to know that she's seeing him. She's trying to like paint this picture of like, oh no, I only went and stayed at his house because of this. I'm not still involved. I don't know. I wasn't really sure what to think of that. But I mean, I have heard from other people now in retrospect, as we're all kind of reflecting, that he's done that before. That he's like threatened to either commit suicide or to kill someone else, which was something that he, I believe, had said to his friend Josh. I don't know if you've spoken to Josh. I can get you his information if you haven't.
Speak to Josh.
Yeah, that would be it. I know Josh talked to. I thought he'd spoken to Dun County already. Okay.
Yeah. Is Trinkler?
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that was just in the last few days that we kind of talked about that. But I don't know. We were pretty convinced as a friend group that Jason has something to do with it. And on Sunday, when I talked to his parents, this was at like 9 in the morning, I called Aubrey, that's the manager at Racy's, and I told her that it was like confirmed because she was the one that was going to put up posters and stuff. I called her, that his parents told me, like, we know, we found his body, he's dead. And she was at Racy's at the time, and Jason had just been there that morning, and she said that Jason was kind of upset because he's like, why doesn't anyone want to talk to me? Like, why is no one talking to me about this? But because everyone is like, what the fuck? Is he like, how is he connected? We feel uncomfortable. So he was obviously picking up on that people were like really uncomfortable around him. So then he left, apparently upset. He left, and then his roommate, Alex Zink, I believe is his last name, showed up a few minutes later. And that was when Aubrey got the phone call from me. So she is on the phone with me crying, and then she told Alex Zink, Jason's roommate, I think it's his roommate, yeah. She told him, like, they found the body, he was stabbed. And then Alex was like, oh my God. And then Aubrey, who believes that Jason has something to do with it, she was like, Alex, where is Jason? Where did he just go? And Alex was like, oh, he's at home, he just went home. And then Aubrey told me on the phone, she's like, I think you need to call the police and tell the police to go talk to Jason. And so I hung up the phone and I called the Eau Claire police. Because also, sorry, she'd said that as soon as she said that to me on the phone, his roommate, like, I think he drove there, his roommate, like, immediately ran to his car and drove home. So she was concerned, like, oh my God, Alex is getting in his car. What the hell? Is he going to, like, protect Jason or something? So she was panicking. I'm like, whatever, I'll call the cops. So I hung up, called the cops, Eau Claire, and they told me, they said, we've already talked to Jason, and we think we have an understanding of what happened. And they basically were like, we don't think, they couldn't say much, but they were like, we think we know what's happening, so I don't know, like, we're not sending someone there, is essentially what I got from that conversation, and that they couldn't tell me anything. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're all at.
Were you ever in Ezra's vehicle?
No, never. I didn't even know she had a car.
Okay.
To be honest, but yeah, no, never.
Travis, you have anything else you think you know?
As a friend group, you said that you guys have this belief that Jason's involved. How do you believe that Jason's involved? What do you think happened?
Yeah, I just feel like maybe there's some kind of like manipulation that happened, and I don't know. It's all so bizarre that I don't know how a person manipulates someone to like harm someone, but like if anything, I wonder if he somehow manipulated her. Like once he found out that she was involved with Alex, I wonder if she just told Jason everything, and then Jason maybe convinced her, oh my God, like you weren't in a relationship with him. He was using you, and he was, I wonder if he like convinced her that Alex was taking advantage of her. Because I mean, I don't know. Just like she is very immature. She's like very fragile. She just seems really fragile. I didn't ever want to live with her, but I showed her the place and was like really nice to her. But I had told my roommate even like I can't live with her. She's way too immature. I don't like trust her. She seems really like flighty. Would she even pay the bills? Like what kind of drama would she get into? That's what I think personally is like maybe he convinced her. I had heard too, and I think maybe Alex had told me this a while back that like she'd gone to, I think she studied in Milwaukee or something, and I'd heard that she was sexually assaulted or like raped maybe, and I would assume that would play a role in like all of the emotional stress that she was probably going through. Whatever happened with this John guy, it seems like a whole bunch of things stacked up. Like with even potentially being transgender, like I can only imagine she was in a really vulnerable position, and Jason strikes me as the type that would take advantage of that position, of that like weakness. I think also us knowing that he was there on Thursday morning, like why was he there? I don't understand why he biked by there. I still haven't heard. I mean, I would never talk to him about it. I don't want to see him. Like, maybe like as a friend group, kind of like generalizing, speaking for them. It just seems like we've all been kind of creeped out by him, and we know that he doesn't treat his partners very well. And even last night, like 20 of us are in a room talking, and someone, we were kind of like sort of fleshing out the story, like here are all the details starting on Thursday, everything that we know. And then someone had said like, oh yeah, and according to Jason, and then immediately everyone was like, we don't care what Jason had to say. We don't trust anything he said. And that's just how everyone feels. Like we don't trust him, but we don't know much about him, but like we don't really like him.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't, there's nothing more than that like gut feeling of it just seems really strange, and I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think I have anything further that I can think of. Kind of gave us, thanks for shedding some information on, light on.
There was a lot of good information that you have.
Oh, thank God. I've been waiting for you to contact me too. I'm like, I'm sure we'll get some.
If you,
Yeah, we'll
if
shut
you
this off now.
come up with any
Today's date is 4/3/18 at approximately 4:11 p.m. Myself and investigator Stalker will be speaking with Samantha Cobb in my vehicle. And I'm just going to set that right there then, Samantha. And I know we talked the other day with Sergeant Mayer and myself at your house. I just kind of wanted to go over a couple of things in regards to what you kind of thought what Alex's response would be if he was ever, I guess we'll use the word, attacked or became a violent situation. What do you think, or how do you think he would react to that?
So I noticed from kind of his general character and having spoken to people and just seeing the way in which he carried himself, that he was definitely more of a pacifist. And so what I would imagine if he were in a situation, he would most definitely either try to avoid it completely, or he would act in a manner that was most definitely as rational as it could be. So in terms of like someone violently attacking him, I can imagine that, maybe he would have tried to stop that action, but it wouldn't have been met with any kind of violent reaction, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, yes. Would it surprise you if he didn't even react with violence if somebody was attacking him? In your opinion?
Right. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Just knowing kind of his stature and the way he carried himself, and his personality as well. I cannot I can't imagine him fighting back, even if you were in, kind of a verbal disagreement. It wasn't his character to lash out or to respond back in that way. So I would imagine that
Right.
he wouldn't have, and given, I don't know exactly, like, where he was when this happened. I imagine he was in the car when it happened, especially if you were in a car, like, buckled in a seatbelt. I don't know that he would even have done anything. He would have just, imagining this, he would have just stayed in that spot, and unfortunately that.
And I know we may have discussed this the other day, and I'm just trying to think back, and I don't know if you were the one that had talked about this. Did you make him aware of Ezra making the comment that she said that he assaulted her or not? Because I can't recall if that was you I talked to, so I just wanted to ask.
I think if I had a conversation with Alex about. He had told me that she had pressed charges against someone else named John something, and I had asked him why, or I asked him, do you think that John actually assaulted her, or do you think that she's just kind of, I hate to use the word pretending or blaming, I don't like blaming the victim, but I had wondered if maybe it was just something that was being done because her ex-boyfriend had found out, and so rather than admitting to cheating, she was like, wait, no, I was drunk, he assaulted me. So I was asking Alex his thoughts on that, and he'd said that he personally didn't think that John would have assaulted her. And then I asked, but do you think that maybe she could press charges against you because you've also been, involved? And I think her ex-boyfriend is kind of manipulating her in a way. And he said he wasn't worried about that because he had, like 6 months worth of text messages to prove
yes,
that
now I recall that.
the relationship was consensual. So maybe that was the conversation we had.
Okay, all right. I think that's just what we wanted to clarify, because again, the reason I did this is we had talked to you, but we had the recorder off, so I just wanted to mention that. So I'm going to shut it off.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there, I guess.